Common Ground Alliance is a nonprofit dedicated to preventing damage to underground utility infrastructure. One of the keys to prevention is training.
There's such a great opportunity when you think of where we can make an impact through education, specifically of the excavator community. And we know that education is really that critical first step. If the excavator doesn't know when they go out into the field what the opportunities are and what the potential hazards are, then, we're really not setting them up for success.
That's Erika Lee, Executive Vice President at Common Ground Alliance. She and CGA's Manager of Education and Programs, Lisa O'Leary, joined DaVinci's Angeline Evans, Christine Kurtz, and me to talk about the role education plays in keeping ground excavation industry workers and the public safe. Next on Powered by Learning.
Powered by Learning is brought to you by DaVinci Interactive. DaVinci's approach to learning is grounded in 30 years of innovation and expertise. We use proven strategies and leading technology to develop solutions that empower learners to improve quality and boost performance. Learn more at davinci.com.
Joining me now are DaVinci Client Solutions Consultant Angeline Evans and Lead Instructional Designer Christine Kurtz, along with Erika Lee and Lisa O'Leary from Common Ground Alliance. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
Well, this is great. The four of you just got back from the Common Ground Alliance conference, and our team, of course, was very proud to have been a sponsor, and we got to meet so many great attendees. What are you all feeling just coming back from the conference?
Well, I had a ton of fun last week. We had about 1,400 stakeholders from across the industry there, and we got a lot of opportunity to talk about this program, the educational program that we're talking about today. And I know Angeline and Christine had a great traffic at their booth and were able to meet a lot of members. So it was really a good time.
Yeah, it was wonderful. We had a lot of people come up and talk and ask about the specific program, but it was also just so exciting. I get so excited to go to this conference every year now because you have such a community, and we'll talk more about this industry and damage prevention, but it is truly such a welcoming and community environment. And it's just unique because I didn't really know it existed until a few years ago. So I'm so excited that we were able to meet.
Yeah. And I know for me, after being on the phone for so many years with the subject matter experts, it was so nice to just see in person and have conversations in person.
Yeah, I bet, Christine.
And I was going to say that after we had our committee meetings and we did the excavator training showcase live, I feel like every few steps people were stopping me and commenting on the excavator training and how well it had been put together and how excited they were to have it as a resource for them now. So it was wonderful to have the great feedback immediately.
That's wonderful.
It was. So for listeners who might not have gathered, we're talking about excavators today.
In fact, let's just start there. Erika and Lisa, tell us about CGA, Common Ground Alliance, and what your roles are there. Erika, we'll start with you.
So the Common Ground Alliance is a multi-stakeholder trade association. We have anybody that deals with preventing excavation damage to underground infrastructure. So we have oil, telecom, electric, excavators, locators, one-call centers, regulators. We really have facility owner-operators. It runs the gamut of anybody that really can influence this space. I'm the executive vice president, so I get the chance to work on all of our programs, and one of them is working with Lisa on excavator training and education.
And I'm the manager of education and programs at CGA. So I'm the staff liaison for our educational programs and marketing committee. I work on the educational sessions at the conference. And as Erika said, we work together on the excavator training and any sort of educational program project that comes through our committees.
Thank you both. So I know you explained a little bit about Common Ground Alliance, but for listeners who might not be familiar with the damage prevention industry, can you just paint a picture of what all that entails and what's actually at risk when something goes wrong in the field?
Yeah, no problem. So I think a lot of people are unaware, and as you just mentioned, really not realizing that this space existed. A huge portion of our energy and our resources are delivered to us underground. So that would be power lines, oil and gas. If you have natural gas in your home, that's delivered underground. Telecom, fiber, your internet connection, water, sewer. So much of these resources are delivered underground. And one of the top, if not the top in all areas, risk to those facilities is excavation damage. So when, if a project is being completed, everything from like landscaping in your backyard, if you're digging deep enough, to, a major excavation project. If you hit one of those facilities, you risk interrupting service, but you also risk injury and even in some cases, life-threatening situations. So it's really important. It's a great resource that we have, but it's important to pay attention to the safety aspect as well.
Yeah, so today we are super excited to talk with CGA about the Excavator Education Damage Prevention Curriculum. This is a project that DaVinci had the privilege to partner on with CGA. I myself served as the learning strategist, and Christine served as the lead project manager and instructional designer. So we're so excited to dive into the curriculum and just talk through some questions we have.
I'm impressed you didn't say dig in. Really.
I lost that opportunity.
You did.
I may just need to leave that in, actually, Christine.
Erika, when you look at the data and the top causes of damage, what keeps showing up? And what does that tell you about where behavior is breaking down in the field?
So at CGA, we collect data from all over the industry about exactly what you're talking about, which are the root causes of why these damages occur. The top root cause of damage consistently year over year is not contacting 811. So that's really the first step. But then throughout the process, there are, I think when we calculated it, about 65% of all damages can be attributed to an excavator behavior that, if influenced, has the opportunity to, reduce the likelihood of that damage occurring in the future. So there's such a great opportunity when you think of where we can make an impact through education, specifically of the excavator community. And we know that education is really that critical first step. If the excavator doesn't know when they go out into the field what the opportunities are and what the potential hazards are, then, we're really not setting them up for success.
And can you talk to me more about the vision behind creating an excavator damage prevention curriculum to help drive some more consistent behaviors?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, we are a broad coalition of stakeholders. We have 811 centers. So those are the ones that when you contact 811, they're the ones that manage, making sure that communication is sent to the facility owner operator. We have owner operators themselves. We have excavators. And there is existing curriculum and existing training out there, but really there's no comprehensive damage prevention training that can be addressed across all of these different groups. We also did, at the start of this project, in working with an advisory committee, talk to a lot of people in the industry, and even where existing curriculum or modules or training exist, there's a lot of gaps in the content. And what we saw a real opportunity to take what we know to be some of those top behaviors and those top root causes of damage and marry them with really specific training. And we also saw there being an opportunity to use some very targeted strategy in making sure that we provided this to a broad audience. Additionally, we wanted to make sure that this would be available to all in the industry at no cost. And so we've been able to do that by working through, our organization with a lot of the subject matter experts that volunteer their time to make this a great program.
I loved how much data you all were able to gather in the beginning, because so many organizations will just say they need a training because they think that's right, but you actually have such thorough data and there was so much thought put into it that it is clear education was the right answer for what kind of behaviors you're trying to address. And so just props to you. It was really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, since you bring that up, and you'd mentioned earlier the community that we have in damage prevention. And, I know Lisa and I both feel grateful to work with people that are willing to give their time and energy to this, but also are willing to respond and provide us with some of that data. So we were able to gather really specific information on what exists and where there are gaps. And I think that set us up for a great strategy.
Absolutely. So Lisa, I know you were leading the charge with this, executing this, right? So when you brought this project to DaVinci, what did you need from a partner to help translate all of the industry best practices that you have at CGA into something that people would actually engage with and use? I know you did a lot of research and thought behind how the heck are we going to take this and create a curriculum?
So admittedly, we were very overwhelmed at first because we are not, education experts. We may have experts with CGA and our members in damage prevention in the industry, but we really did not know how to stand up an educational program. So we really were looking for a partner that was going to help us create a curriculum and an effective program. And that's something that was going to be easy to use for our members.
And you do, I mean, with Erika mentioned like the large SME group and advisory committee, you have a large group of stakeholders and SMEs that were involved with shaping this curriculum and shaping the needs for it. How do you find from your perspective, the process of like harnessing all of those perspectives while still moving forward efficiently? Because sometimes in the learning and development world, when you have that many SMEs, it can also be an obstacle at the same time because you have so many voices contributing feedback. So tell me your thoughts.
So I think for us, the advisory group and the SMEs were really what drove this project. We really didn't want it just to be the voice of CGA behind this project. We wanted to make sure that each stakeholder group was represented, not only in the advisory group, but in the subject matter experts, and that would come through in the final content. I will say that our SMEs have been very dedicated and excited about this project whenever we've called upon them for meetings, whether it's with DaVinci or it's with CGA for this project. They've answered the call and have brought so much knowledge forward for this project. We really couldn't have done it without them.
And Christine, what's your perspective, from leading this project, from developing the curriculum? Like, how has your experience been working with such a large group of SMEs?
It's been different, but really beneficial to get on the phone with this group of people, the experts, and really hear how their understanding of the industry varies just state to state, how different it is, and just being part of the discussions to come to a best practice and agree upon the best way to share this information with the excavation community for safety purposes. I have learned so much. I am an unofficial damage prevention expert at this point. And
and you also got to go in a large piece of equipment.
I am now a machine operator as well. Yes, that is on my resume.
Just so people understand, there was a public service announcement that you worked on for CGA with DaVinci and JPL, and you got to get behind the wheel. So you are an unofficial member of the industry, Christine.
I am, yes. I can't believe no one recognized me at the conference last week.
I was just going to add one thing I think that makes our membership really unique and our organization that is worth bringing up, because now that I think about it, when you're asking this question, we're consensus-based. So when people come to our organization and we develop best practices or we analyze data, everyone comes and knows that they have to collaborate with the other stakeholders and come out with consensus decisions. And when you're talking about a large group of SMEs, I think, all of them are used to this. They know that when they come here, they take off their industry hat, they put on their, damage prevention hat, and they're very focused on making sure that we get accomplished what we want to accomplish. So, I was really happy to see that carry through into our SME groups and into the advisory committee.
Absolutely. I mean, during the learning strategy, I was impressed with how engaged and responsive everyone was, but also just how respectful they were of differing opinions. Every conversation or minor disagreement on content was always settled on the call, and it was consensus based. So when you say that, it truly was in that moment, which was pretty neat.
Yeah, real respect for each other.
Yeah.
Which, in something like this, where you're talking about so many different people and so many different parts of the process have to come together and work well for this to be safe and effective. It's required that everybody is able to do that. So it's something we're proud of.
Yeah, and just to also paint a picture, this curriculum is going to be is comprised of over 40 modules. Some of them are still being developed. They're in the later phases of developing the curriculum. So it's really robust, and it's formatted to be a micro-learning curriculum, so that way it can really be tailored to each person's needs. So Erika mentioned about all of the different roles that they touch. Not everybody needs to know all of the topics that are in the curriculum. So we wanted to allow it to be a la carte, if you will, so you can pick and choose what's meaningful to you and what's going to help you do your job more effectively. Or as a leader, what courses you can assign to your employees that are going to be meaningful and help change the behavior you need.
And I wanted to add too that it was really important, like all of our projects at CGA, that the training was not only in English, but also in Spanish. We know that there is a large percentage of boots on the ground that are Spanish speaking. So we wanted to make sure that this excavator training was not only for those that speak English, but obviously also Spanish as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that bilingual piece plays such a critical role just to the accessibility of the content and making sure it's received well.
So now that the curriculum's out and people are using it, what have you learned? What insights have you seen as people start taking it?
As administrators of the excavator training, we're able to go in and see who has completed the training, who's still working on the training, and the actual modules that they're working on. And we have seen that the most popular English module is to dig or not to dig, and the most popular Spanish training is how to safely hand dig. So, as we work towards building courses, right now we just have the modules, but we're looking forward to seeing, how this training evolves and how learners are using it.
Yeah, and for listeners and organizations in this industry, let's talk a little bit about how they can start using it and where it can realistically fit into what they're doing today.
So we send all of our members and learners to a website that we developed called training.commongroundalliance.com. This is where you're going to learn all about the training. You're going to fill out some forms if you are interested in some of our offerings, which I'll get into in a moment. And this is going to provide you direct access. So you can go from our website, click on a module, and you'll be brought right to our learning management system, which was developed by our partners, Earth. And it's built on a CourseTetra platform. So you can log right in and create an account.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I know just anecdotally at the conference, talking to different 811 centers and one-call centers, one way we've seen them using the curriculum now, because it's in that micro-learning format, they will, use, because CGA sets the stage for best practices, they'll use the modules to lay the foundation for a specific topic and then complement it with their state-specific needs. So, for instance, like Tolerance Zone 101, an 811 center might use that to set the foundation on what the tolerance zone is, and what are the industry best practices for the distance between from the utility. But then they'll have a complementary module that says, in this state we follow these guidelines of what the distance is, or this is a legal update in our state related to what it used to be. So it just helps not reinvent the wheel for a lot of folks that might not have the full comprehensive end-to-end training, and so they can really weave in those pieces seamlessly.
Exactly. So you can log into the learning management system and take the training, or if you are a CGA member, we do offer the ability to sign up for accessing the module files and putting them in their company's learning management system. So it's a great way to supplement your own excavator training or other learning programs that you have on a learning management system.
And we have two other features that I think are very helpful to the community. One is if companies want to be able to assign an administrator. So if all of their employees are going to take training through our platform, they can identify an administrator, we approve that person, and then they're able to actually go in and assign specific modules to people that work for them. And we have a certificate of completion that we just finished. And this is an important thing that our education committee really wanted to make sure was in place, and Lisa might be able to speak more to that. But the committee really wanted to make sure that if it is assigned to somebody, or even in some areas where maybe they have been notified that they did not dig safely, whether it's by a regulatory body or through a contract that they work on for a specific company, and they're saying, okay, you need to prove to us that you've taken this course, or that you've taken a series of damage prevention education courses. And so now they're able to do that. They can say and share that certificate of completion with whoever they want to.
The certificate of completion is a great tool. It actually pulls in your name and the module you've completed. And as Erika mentioned, you can share it with, your supervisor or colleagues, whoever is looking to see that you've completed a specific module or groups of modules. And then another feature that is exciting is you can actually share that certificate of completion on your LinkedIn profile. I think we've all logged into LinkedIn and have seen our connections have completed courses or some other training program. And we're excited that now learners from the Excavator training program can also share that on the LinkedIn platform.
And I just want to add, for any listeners who are like e-learning nerds, I'll call it, if you will, but Lisa mentioned how you can also upload courses into your own LMS. And I know some folks might be like, what do you do if you need to make an update? So what we were able to do is put their actual course into a SCORM wrapper. And what's neat is then if an organization uploads that course into their LMS, it tracks complete and incomplete, but the actual source of truth or the module file itself lives in CGA's LMS. And so with CGA being it being really important to gather data, it lets them gather that data, but then organizations can also capture if it's complete and incomplete, and they don't have to worry about version control or updates. So
I just want to add to that. This has been such a collaborative process. And I think this particularly, when we started working with Vinci, we had some asks that are pretty outside the scope of probably what you guys typically have. And this being one of them is, it was really important to us to make sure that we were creating, as we mentioned, probably the most comprehensive curriculum, especially that is damage prevention specific and not company specific. We wanted to make it as accessible as possible. And so when we would hear of barriers that would stop people from potentially using it, we tried to think of strategies that would work. And I think this is a great example of, we have people that have existing programs. We have excavators, we have 811 centers, and they may want to use 5, 10, not all of the, modules, but they have existing things in their own system. And this really provides a great way for them to be able to have both. And I think the other thing is, when you think of our curriculum overall, we're able to, and we have been able to, have very specific and interactive content in some of our most critical damage prevention areas. And, when we think overall, how are we seeing this being used? And the fact that hand digging is one of the top ones, and we know that is a problem, and we know that the technique alone and having knowledge around the technique can prevent damage, that's really, that's supporting kind of how we got started in this whole process. I think seeing that people are accessing the content that we know can be most critical is great.
I also wanted to mention too that I think what is drawing people in also is just the learning modules are micro learning. So I think the fact that somebody can take a module in, 5 to 7 minutes and be done, I think really helps. You can take it on your laptop, your computer, you can take it on your phone, you could take it on the go. So it's been very instrumental in the way our stakeholder groups work day to day. Some are in the field, some are outside, some are inside. So I think it's crucial that the learning is short and that you can take it on a number of different platforms.
Well, it's really incredible to listen to the four of you talk about this. I learned some things today. And with the conference just being last week, what were you hearing from the conference attendees that kind of reinforced the need for this kind of approach to training? And what's ahead next for you?
For me, one of the things that stands out from last week is we had a panel that we were able to speak to people about this curriculum. And one of the statistics about the amount of information that people forget after they learn something was
the old forgetting curve.
Oh my gosh, we could see like a gasp in the audience when they saw the actual answer. And Angeline and Christine, you're going to have to remind me, is it 90%?
So some studies say 90%, others say 70 to 80%, but it's still significant, right?
But it's a lot, right? Yeah. And so, I see there being such an opportunity. Learning is an ongoing process that's going to be something that excavators or anybody in the industry have to do throughout their career. And this is such a great way to reinforce what may be existing training. And I heard that from a lot of people. And I also heard great idea of like people who have new employee training. And it doesn't just, excavators, of course, that's what this is targeted for. But we heard across the board, like new employees for 811 centers, new employees at utility companies, like ensuring that everybody that works in and around this industry has an opportunity to get accessible information. But just that idea of, we can use this as an opportunity to reinforce, and the micro learning that we mentioned, I think really makes that all the more accessible to our members.
We had a couple folks come to our booth and just, we talked a little bit about what themes they were seeing and what's the hardest situation when it comes to training in the damage prevention industry. And several times folks said it was the attitude and the behaviors, right? So even individuals who have been in the field for a long time might have an attitude that they know where the line is, or, I don't have to follow this rule. And so a big piece of this curriculum that I know we try to focus on is that we're trying to increase everyone's competence who are excavators, but also like their confidence so that they feel empowered to speak up when they see someone who's been there a long time making a wrong choice, because the newbies usually don't want to do that. So we want to make sure, like, to the point, having a curriculum be accessible so everyone knows what they should be doing out there, so that hopefully they speak up if they see someone not practicing something safely.
Absolutely. And I think that message is incorporated through many of the modules, which is safety and damage prevention being everybody's role in the process. That's a great part of being able to kind of weave that core message throughout many of the training modules.
I really like what you said too about reinforcing core concepts, because we've had people come to us and say like, oh, we don't do that digital learning. And we still really, we want you to have face-to-face on the job conversations about best practices and what's safe. But it is a great way to reinforce maybe what they already know or what they've already learned, and just really drive home those key points.
It sounds like this curriculum's doing so much already, but have you given thought to what might be next?
I'm excited about a couple of the modules that we're working on right now. And then when I get feedback, I also have a bunch of ideas. Lisa knows I'm full of ideas. Just like, no more ideas.
Endless ideas.
No more ideas. But one that we're working on that I think a lot of it now is specific to any excavator could take the training, but we're looking at one specific to landscaping. And we know that is an area where there's a lot of opportunity to educate. There are some root causes that are specifically very high for landscapers, like not contacting 811. So really looking at those audience-specific modules and understanding how our membership may be able to use those to make some headway in some areas that have been challenging in the past. Not as much time for training. When you picture a big utility company that has excavators, or a company that works on major development projects, is going to have a different level of training than a landscaping company. So I think that's a great area where we can make a lot of headway. And I think this might just be an opportunity to open the door to the rest of the curriculum for that community.
And reaching out to the next generation too.
So speaking of the next generation of diggers, CGA has been working with DaVinci on a game based on that exact concept, teaching children from grades 3 to 5 about excavation. And the game is really interactive. It has great characters and imagery and a lot of choices for the kiddos, and able to keep their attention span, which we all know is hard to do this day and age.
Even for adults.
Absolutely.
Yes. Myself included. This was again something that was sort of a need for our educational programs and marketing committee. They're looking for a gamification. They're often going into the community, or they're going into schools. And this is a great way to not only sort of open the door to communicate with schools and other type of organizations, but teaching them about the industry. We showed the committee the final version of the game at our committee meeting, and people were very excited. We actually put it up on the screen, and I, did my best to walk them through as if they were, if we were all playing together. But I think what also stands out is it's a game, but there's also mini games within the game. And I've really enjoyed playing it myself. I've obviously played it a lot of times as working with Christine on the project for many months now, but we think it will be a great tool, and our members are excited to have a resource like this.
It's a great way to just raise awareness with that age group about 811 and the importance of calling 811, but also educating them that there are things running underground that you don't hit. So the learning objectives of that we kept it pretty simple, just to drive home the basics, and then reinforce it with a lot of fun colors and graphics. And like Lisa was saying, a lot of games along the way, but hopeful that then they grow up to be adults who call 811 before, putting in a new mailbox, or even saying like, hey, Dad, did you call 811?
Did you call yet? Yeah.
My kids love to learn things at school and then, teach me about it when they come home.
Right.
So I think folks will start to see that with this game too. So
what I loved about it too is we've focused so much in the past of our, education towards children on just the 811 message and just call before you dig. And this really gives them more information, which I think is stickier. I think they know more about the why, they understand what some of the consequences are. So I love that the curriculum as part of the module is broader, and it's still, as you mentioned, it's basic, but it still provides them with that additional information that I hopefully will motivate them for the rest of their lives.
It will for sure. I know our team really enjoys working on this work with your team, and we certainly value the partnership with Common Ground Alliance. So thank you very much for being a part of Powered by Learning today.
Thanks so much. We enjoyed being here.
thanks, everybody.
My thanks to DaVinci's Angeline Evans and Christine Kurtz, and our guests, Erika Lee and Lisa O'Leary from Common Ground Alliance. If you'd like to learn more about being a guest on our podcast, just contact us at poweredbylearning@davinci.com.